hope everyone can hear me okay. It seems like you can. I hope you are having a great day. We're going to be going over our lesson 7. There is a video in there in case you've already watched it. This will replace that. So we're going to be talking about creating double number lines. I know we've talked about how to read a double number line and we've played around with it a little bit. So by the end of today, I'm hoping that you can create a double number line if you are given a set of ratios, and so that you can use the tick marks to represent equivalent ratios or batches, and we'll talk about that, and that you can explain what the word per means. So as we get into that, we'll talk about it. All right, so to kind of get started, I want you on your paper to draw a number line, and then on that number line, locate and label the following numbers on your number line. So you're going to have your paper out, and you're going to mark on your paper where each of these numbers are. Yes, Zoe? You don't see any numbers? Can you see the screen that I'm sharing right now? Okay, so do you see where it has number 1, locate and label the following numbers on the number line? Does anyone else not see our number line? It shows a circle. You can see it. Okay, so I think this is a Teams issue. So they're kind of the same issue we were having this morning. Okay. All right. Can you see any those that were not able to see it? Are you able to see it now? Okay, Zamir, you said you still don't see my screen? It should say page 38, but you're not actually like in a book. So you should just see what my screen says, and then have some paper to take notes. Okay. Okay. So draw your number line, and you're going to locate on your number line where each of these numbers are. If you are not able to see it for some reason right now, again, I am recording this and you can watch it later, but hopefully, your computer will either catch up, or it's probably not even your computer, it's probably Teams. Teams is struggling this morning with some lag issues. So, we're going to do this together. I know whenever I'm making a number line, I like to find like where about the halfway mark would be. So halfway through this number line is right here. So I just know mentally that's halfway. So what's between 0 and 2? What would be between 0 and 2? It's actually not any of our numbers that are here. But it's good to know, yep, exactly that. It is the number 1. So for me, it helps me to find that. Because now, let's start with our first number, our half mark. Well, I know 1/2 is halfway between 0 and 1. And I know, looking at 1/4, that when we're thinking about quarters, that a quarter is half of a half. So between 0 and 1/2 is going to be our 1/4. So now our next number we see is our 1 3/4. And that one I look at and go, oh, well, that one's a little bit hard. So I look at our 1 and our 2, and I know halfway through there would be 1.5 or 1.5. But wait, this is Chicago. You're supposed to do 1 3/4. Yes, but for me, I always like to find that halfway point, and I happen to know it is one of our numbers. So 1 3/4. Let's come back to this number. 3/4. Where would that be? Would that be between 1 and 1.5 or 1.5 and 2? Zoe? Correct. So halfway between 1.5 and 2 would be 1 3/4. Because if you think about quarters, so like if I drew a line right here, this is 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 1 3/4. Go back. Okay. All right. And then our last number, 1.75. Where would that be? Anyone other than Zoe. I want everyone to try to be involved. Hayden? So you're very close. It's actually 1.75 is the same as 1 3/4. So it's actually going to be right there. The same. And I know that's tricky because you're like, okay, well, I need to make a new mark. But actually, you would just write it over top. All right, we're going to skip our number 2 warm-up right now just because we're short on time. All right, so the other day, we had made green water by mixing 5 milliliters of blue water and 15 milliliters of yellow water in another lesson. So we're going to use that same ratio, and we're going to think about making a very small batch, but keeping it the same shade. So we need to know how much yellow water to mix with only 1 milliliter of blue water. So the first thing we're going to do is on the number line for blue water is label the 4 tick marks that are shown. So we have each of these tick marks. So if we're going to label them, make this a little bigger. Again, whenever we're labeling, what I want you to do is thinking about fractions. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 units in between, so or fifths. So this is actually 0 over 5, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. Actually, never mind. That's not what we're doing. Scratch that. Miss Nishikawa is incorrect this morning. I'm jumping ahead of myself to a different lesson, y'all. So we do have 5, and then a 0 to 5. So this should be pretty simple. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm jumping to another lesson we're going to get to. All right, so our blue water, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have 5. But what I want you to know is because we're mixing 5 milliliters of blue water to 15 milliliters of yellow water, that I want us to come down and do the same thing on the number line for yellow water. So now we're going to draw our tick marks. So we come here to 15. You're going to have the same tick marks as above, but it's not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 15. So what you have to do is, so we have 5 units. You have to take 15 and divide it by the number of units, or 5. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay? Why are you erasing there when I'm not touching there? Alright. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. So we're going to go in units of 3. So our first tick mark is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So you take the number you have here and divide it by how many jumps or how many spaces. Here's 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces, 5 spaces. And this is looking really messy right now.
I need a spoonie. What? Strawberry cream. Strawberry and cream flavor. That's what it is. It's yummy.
Are you with me? So now that we have our double number line for blue water and yellow water, let's look at number 3. How much yellow water? So whenever you're doing word problems, marking them and pulling out the important information. So we're trying to find out how much yellow water should be used for 1 milliliter of blue water. So I'm going to change the color of my pen. And we're going to circle where we can see this on the double number line. So I need to find out, this is my question, finding out how much yellow water. So looking at my yellow water, I'm not sure yet. So question mark. But I know I need 1 milliliter of blue water. So I'm going to circle that here. That is at our first tick mark. So that is where you would see it. So our answer would be 3 milliliters of yellow water. We're going to do number 4 together. It's a little bit smaller. Can you see it? So number 4, I'm going to change my color so that I can try to keep everything separated. So number 4. How much yellow water should be used for 11 milliliters of blue water? So for our blue water, we need 11 milliliters. Okay, well, I did not label all my tick marks. So between 5 and 10, I know I have 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of these is a tick mark. Then after, I know I have 1 more. So this would be 11. So you don't see where I'm writing in green right now? Okay, let me try to refresh it again. Okay, well, I'm recording this, so even if you can't see it right now, if you're not seeing anything at all, you can try to listen. But I would say you can watch the video I'm gonna post when this meeting is over. I don't know how to make Teams sync up. It's having a lot of issues this morning. Okay, you're welcome. So we have our 5 tick marks. So this would be number 6, 7, 8, 9. You have 10, and then 11. So we're looking at 11 milliliters of blue water. So again, you'd have to make the same tick marks or the batch marks, because that's what they are, is batches. And again, we're doing by 3. So 15 turns into 18, then 21, 24, 27, then we have 30, and then 33. So what I feel like a lot of you might end up struggling with, that you might need to practice on, is how to just make these number lines and how to find the units. And again, that is, taking the number of spaces. For instance, we had 5 tick marks that we got from our blue water, and dividing our number by that to know how many units we have. So for how much yellow water should be used for 11 milliliters of blue water? It would be 33 milliliters. So now I want you to answer number 5. How much yellow water should be used for 8 milliliters of blue water? And I want you to answer in the chat box. How much yellow water should be used for 8 milliliters of blue water? And you can answer in the chat box. I'm giving thumbs up to those of you that are typing in your answers. If you get it correct, I'm giving you a thumbs up. If you get a frowny face, I want you to look back at it. And so for 8 milliliters of blue water, remember, look at your blue water. And we're looking at this number 8 milliliters. And you're going to look directly under it to find its matching. So Hayden, can you try again? So we have our 8 milliliters right here. That's put a square around in orange. What would the corresponding yellow water be? So for those of you that are still working on it, try to keep yourself on mute so we don't have an echo. So the answer is 24. So if you look directly under, the matching batch for the yellow water is 24. So our answer would be 24 milliliters. Why is it useful to know how much yellow water should be used with 1 milliliter of blue water? So I want you to think about that for a minute. If you know for 1 milliliter of blue water, you need 3 milliliters of yellow water, how can you use that in math? Anyone have an idea? So for every 1 blue water, we have 3 yellow water. I'm going to show you by knowing that. We have 1 blue water is equal to 3 yellow, or ratio, right? Because we know that 1 blue is equal or equivalent to with 3 yellow water. Let's say I know that I have 10 blue. In order to keep this the same, if I have 1 blue, I have 3 yellow. If I have 10 blue, how many yellow would I need? Anyone know? Correct. I would need 30 yellow. So by knowing how many blue for every 1 blue, how many yellow I need, I can solve many of these. For instance, if I know I have, let's say, 100 blue, it would take you a really long time to draw a number line for 100 milliliters of blue water to yellow water. However, if you have your double number line and you know from your double number line that you found 1 blue water is 3 yellow water, you can look at this 100 blue. Well, I know I can multiply my 100 times however many yellow I need, which is 3, and that would give me 300. So instead of having to draw a number line all the way out to 300 milliliters, because that would take us quite a long time, now I can just do the math. Now I had to finding this 1. So our original ratio up here told us 5 milliliters to 15. So we needed to find this 1. You have to reduce it down to the 1 in order to do this. But once you find the 1 and how many your blue water and how many yellow water goes with blue, then you can just do the math. So if I know I have 1 blue water to 3 yellow water. So I have 5 blue. How many yellow do I need? Type in the chat box. How many yellow would I need if I had 5 blue water? And if your chat box isn't working, you can just come off mute. Correct. How did you get 15?
How do you do that? How do I change my background? No. How do you do that? With this? They take a photo.
Correct. So you're going to multiply however many blue you have to find your yellow. So I could put 50 blue here. All right, please keep your microphones on mute unless you're answering a question, because your background noise is distracting. So if we had 50 blue, how many yellow would we need? Leah?
Come to my background. Come to my background,
Almost. So the equation we're going to use is 50 times 3. So I know whenever I'm multiplying and there's a number with a 0, if if I have that 0, I can ignore that 0 and just do 5 times 3, which I know is 15. And then you add the 0 at the end.
Okay, then that's there.
So it's 150. Using that same logic, what if I had 1,110 blue? I'm making a whole lot of paint here, y'all. How much yellow would I need? Again, you can ignore the 0.
Thank you.
So 111 times 3 would just be, because 1 times 1 is 3, so 3, 3, 3, and add that 0.
Oh.
So do you see why
My
finding
name is Moana.
what your ratio of one blue to 3 yellow, why that's useful? Alright, let's go to our next screen.
Mommy, can I get popsicles?
Alright, so we have a recipe to make art paste. Here's our ratio. For every 2 pints of water, you need to mix in 8 cups of flour. So we have 2 cups of water with 8 cups of flour. So following the instructions to draw a double number line diagram that represents the recipe for art paste. So on your paper, I want you, if you don't have a ruler, you can use another straight edge. But you're going to draw 2 parallel lines. Then you're going to label the first line, pints of water, and label the second line, cups of flour. So I should have your pencils are moving, you're taking notes, you are writing this down on your paper, so that I know that you are getting this. Because this is where you're going to get that practice. Just watching me do it isn't going to help you. I need you to actually do it. So, on your paper, draw your 2 parallel lines. First line is pints of water. Second line is cups of flour. Yes, Samir? Okay. If you can't see my screen, if you haven't been able to see it at all, you're going to have to watch the video later. Because I don't know how to make Teams work right now, because some people are able to see it and some are not. I apologize. So after you've drawn your lines and labeled them, you always need to label them. Then you're going to draw at least 6 equally spaced tick marks that line up on both lines. So I'm going to pull this up on the next screen and kind of do it with you, so that if you're struggling, you can follow along. All right, so I have my 2 double number lines. All right, I hope that coming in and out helps, Zamir. So I have my 2 double number lines. So hopefully you've at least gotten to this point. And then we have our tick marks. We have the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth tick marks. So our first tick mark is always 0. So our first number line is going to be pints of water. I need to change my color. Our first one is going to be pints of water. The second is going to be cups of flour. So again, our first tick mark, our first batch is always 0 on a number line. So some of the most important things when we are creating double number lines are things like making sure our batches are lined up. So you need to make sure when you draw these parallel lines that they are in line with each other. So each tick mark, each batch line matches. And that's important because that helps you see it. So you don't want to draw, like, you would not want to draw a number line here and then another one here. You need to make sure that they are parallel. Like this. And then your tick marks are in line with each other. They need to line up. You cannot have them, like this. What is something else you think might be important when you are creating double number lines? What is something else you think might be important when you're creating double number lines? Zoe? They have to be labeled because you need to know which is which. So labeling them is always important. What do you think might be important about like our spacing when we're drawing a double number line? So if I draw this number line and this number line, when I'm making my spaces, what is something I need to think about? Anyone other than Zoe? Not that I don't want to hear from you, Zoe, but I want to hear from some other people too. So what's something to think about with my spacing when I create a double number line? Something important. Leo? Like if I did like my tick marks like this, right? Like right on top of each other. Yep, exactly. Space them out. Yep. Does anyone see anything wrong with my number line? Let's see if I can hear from someone other than Leo and Zoe. Hayden? Hayden, what would you fix on my number line? Zoe, what would you fix on my number line? Exactly. They're all over the place and it's not even. That's what I wanted you to notice. They're not even. So it would be better to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you have a ruler can help you make sure they're even. But if not, you can use like your thumb or your pinky finger or even a pencil, but something that will help you keep them even. So having them even, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is very important because having them kind of spread out, you can't judge them on the number line very well. So you need to make sure that your spacing for each unit or in each batch is about the same. All right. So we have our double number lines, and so then we're gonna write down our batches. So we've labeled them. So for our amount of water, we have 2 pints of water for 8 cups of flour. So I'm going to write that up here. 2 pints of water to 8 cups of flour. And this is our water to flour. That's our original ratio. So for pints of water, we're going to start with our number 2. 2 pints of water. That's 8 cups of flour. That is one batch. It's okay, Hayden. Teams is struggling and our Wi-Fi's are struggling. I understand. So we have each batch. That's batch number 1. What is our second batch? What would pints of water be on our second batch? Nicole? Correct. It would be 4. So you want to make sure that you're staying with the same unit. So we have 2, 4, then we would have 6, 8, and 10. So now on your number line, on your paper, I want you to finish the cups of flour. So now we have 8. I'll help you. This next one would be 16. Then I want you to finish these 3. Great job, Leah. Great job, Zoe.
How did you read my mind? You read my mind. No, I just want strawberry.
So I'm going to move us along because I know we have about 5 minutes. So our next one will be 24, 32, and 40. After that, we were asked to look at our double number line, and we're going to use it to answer these questions. So the first question, I know you can't see it, is how much flour should be used with 10 pints of water? So how much flour should be used with 10 pints of water? Type it in the chat box. So again, our pints of water. We have 10 pints of water would be 40. Now, you remember we talked about earlier that it's important to try to find the one. So the ratio of like 1 unit of water to flour. You don't have to do everything, but I think it's important for us to notice if we do number 1. What would be our cups of flour for 1 pint of water? Type that in the chat box. I really, those of you that are participating, I know some of you are trying to take notes and trying to switch back to the computer. It's hard. I really hope you are taking notes and writing this along with us because that's how you learn. Those of you participating in the chat box, that really helps me make sure you understand. Correct. It is 4. Good job. So, I'm going to write it down below here. It was when we were creating, if you see where I'm writing in red, we have if we had 1 unit of water, how much flour? Because now I could ask you, so we have our ratio of 1 unit of water to 4 cups of flour. I could ask you, okay, what if we have 50 pints of water? You can find out how much flour you need by multiplying 50 times 4. Which would be 200. So finding that unit of that batch, that single batch, even when you're given a ratio of like 2 to 8, finding that, in this case 1 to 4, is helpful to find the answers to your other questions. So I want us to talk about the word per. So in your notes, write this down and then we should be done. The word per means for each. So if I say, going back to this example, stop presenting. Okay, let's see if this fixes it. I know you can't see my screen right now. I'm working on fixing it. All right, so it's not letting me show you, but the word per means for each. So in the case when we were talking about that pints of water to cups of flour, for every 1 pint of water, so we have 4 cups of flour. So using per, which means for each, we have 4 per 1. So 4 cups of flour per water. So for each means single. So that's finding that single. So 4 cups of flour per 1 pint of water. You could also say it as 1 pint of water per 4 cups of flour. It's just another way that we can use ratios. All right, so for your cool down today, well, you're going to move in. I'm going to see if I can share my other screen because this one's not working. Good morning. All right. Let me see if I can get this to work. All right. So we have for your cool down and your practice. Make sure you're completing your practice problems. But for the cool down, you're going to draw a double number line diagram, which we just did, and then you're going to write a sentence that describes the situation using the word per. So, for instance, with these cats, we have 2 ears, 4 paws, and 1 tail for each cat. So you could say there are 2 ears per cat, or 2 ears per 4 paws, or 4 paws per tail. So you're going to use that word per in a sentence. Make sure when you do your practice problems that you're checking for accuracy and what your grade is so that you can get 100. You can go back and hit edit my response and change your grades so that you are able to, change your answer so that your grade can be pulled up. So it is 11:02. Our meeting is over. I know I have office hours right now, but due to my internet lagging, I'm going to restart my computer again. So if you need me in office hours, come back in about 10 minutes, and I'll be in here. If not, go work on these practice problems. If you're struggling, you can come back into my office hours. But our meeting is over. I thank you all. Make sure that you are doing both the practice problems and the cool down.